It's supposed to rain again today, and our rain gauge is gone, so that means they must have repaired the roof. So we're just trusting that we got some way to measure the rain out there, but we're thankful. I just saw on Facebook, one of the supervisors was up in Camptonville taking a video of the snow coming down. I thought, oh, it looks nice up there. You ever been to Camptonville? Man, it's a beautiful little village up there. So thank God for the rain and the snow. My friend Tomas Perez is up in Truckee pushing the snow. He's a snowplow guy for Caltrans now. Did you know that? And it freaks him totally out up there. Anyway, he's every weekend he's been plowing snow. Pretty good. He's from a tree climber to a snow plower. Well, last week, or this past week, everything around me has been exploding. My car had problems. I had to get a jump after speaking at the jail. But Yuba City Honda had me fixed in less than an hour. Boom. Just drove over there, got out, had a cup of coffee, talked on the phone a little bit, and they put a new battery in. I was good to go. Thank God for jumper cables and friends to jump you right on the side of the street. Then the phone was crazy. My phone has been crazy. You know how the cell phones work. Remember back in the day when they were really flaky and you were constantly hearing people, can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Well, my landline was like that. I'd be talking on the landline and people say, Lou, are you still there? Are you still there? And I've been talking to AT&T about that, and I replaced my phones twice. I thought it was my phones. I thought it was a cheap Walmart phone. But actually, they were good Walmart phones for a cheap price. And they were working good, but so the guy came in the other day, really nice guy, and he said, Lou, your line inside your house is so old, it's like a piece of string with lacquer around it. So we replaced the line. I thought, oh, I'm going to get it. Well, then right after he left, I was on the phone again, and I had the same problem. And so then the entire phone went out, internet, everything. So they had two guys, the nicest guys from AT&T came out, worked there all morning yesterday. And I was a little nervous about preparing for the show, so I went out to Glad Tidings at my old haunt out there to hook up, to get on the internet so I could look up some stuff and prepare for the show in case they couldn't fix it, because he said the telephone wires in downtown Marysville are so old with all this new technology and new power that they can't handle all the juice or something. So anyway, I got home and thank you, Jesus, man. They had that phone system and my internet's working amazing. So fast I could hardly walk. So my screen was changing so fast. So thank God for, I think it was Bob over there at Yuba City Honda got me squared away. And then Fidel stopped by the house. He was AT&T, knocked on my door, said they not only going to fix my internet, but he said, we listen to your radio show. So I want to give a shout out to the AT&T guys out there and the guys out at the Yuba City water treatment plant that listen, and the delinquents over at Juvenile Hall. So we just give a shout out for everybody that's listening today. But it's nice when you have a problem and you have great service. So I had a guy speaking with me at the jail. I told him when we met at the jail to speak, I said, hey, my car's acting up. I said, I may need a jump at the end of this thing. He said, no problem. So I got these amazing jumper cables. They look like I could pull up to and jump a train if they needed a jump. They're thick old things, man. Long and thick. I thought I'm going to be able to reach around the corner to jump. So he just pulled up behind my car, and I was able to reach all the way over. He had a big old, Phil, he's got that big old 4x4 diesel. I don't even know why he owns such a thing, but it's massive. You need a step ladder to get up into it. Anyway, that thing jumped that thing in about 15 seconds. Boom. So it's nice to have great service. AT&T, man, they just knocked it out of the park yesterday. And so I'm glad to be back. Well, I just saw this morning, every year, about this time of year, they come out with a report that outlines the area's shortcomings in health. Do you remember, they always say we're obese. You don't need to come to Yuba County or Sutter County to know that Americans are obese. You just have to fly in from Vietnam when you're over there and hang out with the Vietnamese or the Thai or the Cambodians or the Laotians, and then you fly back to America. It looks like everybody's like they're overinflated. Have you ever overinflated a tire or a ball or something? It's just like, say what? It's just like, you need to let a little air out, dude. So they always say us up here in this Yuba County and Sutter County area, we got bad health. Well, it's part of the culture up here. But we're fat, just like a lot of people are fat in the United States. And I remember, it's one thing when people just choose to eat too much, like me. One of my favorite pastimes, since I can't do drugs anymore and I don't get drunk, I don't like run the streets anymore. One of my favorite pastimes is eating food, right? I like food, but I have to watch it because if I eat too often, what are you eating over there? Are you eating a donut or something? He's eating a pastry right across the window from me. So if I got to watch it because I don't burn off the calories like I used to, and my weight, in fact, I'm a little overweight myself. So I noticed that my weight problems happened to start and stop with Lou, not with the government, not with the store. The store doesn't affect me. It's my choices I make at the store. So I tell people I don't haul sweets into the house because if I do, I'll eat the whole bag in one sitting. Or ice cream, I'll eat the whole box in one sitting. So I just don't bring it home, right? The way the people are talking now, like we're going to get rid of guns, we should get rid of stores because that's the source of all sweets is stores. So if we eliminated stores, then we could stop all my problem of overeating. Well, do you remember a few years ago when Mary Jane Griego and John Nicoletti were on the Board of Supervisors, and they were the most obese people on the board, and yet they were the ones that wanted to start the program to fight obesity and straighten everybody else out in the community? That's like having a meth addict stand up and preach on the corner of 5th and D that meth is really a big problem, and you all out there ought to stop using methamphetamines. But I got called over the WikiMan. I got called over. By the way, this is KMYC. If you just stumble across this, and WikiMan and Lou Benninger are here trying to do this show. And so yesterday I got called over to the Yuba County Sheriff's Department, and one of the officers wanted me to speak to a young man. So I went in, and I'd never met him before. I'd seen him because I was in there doing a class, and I saw he was in a holding cell getting ready to be put somewhere. And so I waved at him. I said, I'll be back to see you. And so I met with him, and I tried to find out who his people are, see if I knew his family. And so I said, how come you're in here? He said, oh, for out being on the street preaching. I said, say what? I said, and who arrested you? Oh, Marysville Police. He said, they arrest me all the time for preaching, telling people about Jesus. Yeah, he says. So we're talking. He said, they didn't beat me up this time. I said, oh, really? I said, what, are you hard to arrest? You go easy or you go hard? And so anyway, he said, oh, no, I'm easy to get along with. So we're talking along, right? And he said, oh, yeah, he said, I don't get along with churches too much. I said, what's the problem? He said, oh, well, they just don't like the way I go about it. And so anyway, we're talking along, and all of a sudden it comes out that I said, you do drugs? And because he said he's a Christian guy. And he says, well, I use meth. And I says, oh, you're a Christian, but you use meth? He said, well, Jesus drank wine. I said, oh, well, that makes total sense. It makes total sense. I said, I've been waiting for that medical meth to come out, get that 215 card to use meth legally, right? So anyway, I said, honestly, man, you're so full of baloney. I asked him, he was a dark-skinned guy. I said, are you Mexican, black, what are you? And he said, I'm half black. People never say they're half white, right? They always say they're half of that color. They always add the color in, half black, half Mexican, half Asian, right? It's never half white. So anyway, I had a great time talking to this youngster, and he says, Well, he said, I'm going to get out here a couple of weeks. I don't have anywhere to go. Now, this uh, converges with the homeless problem we're having right now. We're getting sued here in both counties over this homeless situation. So this is a typical situation. So he says, I'm getting out and I don't have anywhere to go. That's my problem. I said, he's single guy, right? So I said, well, he's single because his lady kicked him to the curb. He's got 2 kids. So I said to him, why don't you go over to the rescue mission? He said, I knew you were going to say that. I said, what do you mean? I said, listen, partner, I said, I don't like to sleep out in the cold or the rain. And I'll tell you, if I ended up in a bad situation, I'd be over at that mission in a hot second because I know I could find a job and I know I could work my way out of homelessness. And because I'm willing to take any job. And if I could start at the mission, which is warm, they got a bed there, I can clean my clothes there, and I can get a shower and a shave there. And then I can move myself up to maybe a little studio apartment. You got that? So he never did say what his problem was over there, but my hunch is he misbehaved and got himself kicked out, right? So isn't it true that the people that are homeless, they got all these restrictions on where they could where they should and shouldn't go. Now, I got a kick out of reading the lawsuit against Sutter County yesterday. It's so interesting. They described a number of the plaintiffs that they're representing. Plaintiffs are people that feel like they're getting taken advantage of because they don't want to follow the rules of society. And one of them I actually knew. We'd helped him out at Glad Tidings many times, right? And Bart Schaefer, you remember Bart Schaefer? Yeah, he's one of the plaintiffs suing, right? Wikiman knows him. Because we've helped that guy over and 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 over. And now he's suing the county, right? Like I told Dave Bryan, the people you help the most, black your eye the darkest. And so then I noticed another gal that they say she can't find a place to stay because she's got all these cats, and the cats are part of helping her mental health. I thought, my God, and Jesus too. I thought, that woman, she got to find a place that'll take the whole troop of cats, because if the cats leave, then she's mentally unstable. I thought, you know something, we have lost our ever-loving mind in this. So the Bart's living down the river bottoms with a lady he's considering his wife. And I thought, that guy, first of all, his uncle is a retired parole officer and would help him. I don't know whether you ever knew his uncle. And I met him years ago. But Bart, that guy is as healthy as a horse and smart. And he just doesn't want to get up every morning and go to work and something hard like that. It's tough, getting up every morning. Well, this obesity thing, this article written in the Appeal Democrat, it shows why the figures are skewed. Skewed means crazy. And so it talks about the ratio of doctors to patients. And it said there's just not enough docs in Yuba County. Well, the problem is that really, because Yuba County and Sutter County, the 2 county seats are a river apart, that a lot of people live over on one side, shop on the other side. So a lot of the docks are located on the Sutter County side. And Yuba County people drive over there to see the docks over there, right? So you got to really look at both counties together, but they say, well, we're short of docks in Yuba County. There's a huge ratio. For instance, it says in Yuba County, there's 4,380 people per one doctor, and dentists 2,900 per one doctor. Well, most of the dentists are in Yuba City. They drive over the bridge. But so that makes it look like Yuba County is this terrible place. Well, the fact is you just have to drive. In fact, the doctors and dentists are easier to get to from Yuba County to Sutter County than they are across Sacramento, right? I mean, it's closer. So the study is stupid. It's a stupid study. So then they talk about obesity, and I thought, oh, yeah, you go to San Diego, people are much healthier down there, but that's because they're thinking better down there. Marin County says has 880 people per one dentist or physician, 880 physicians, or one person, 880 people for one physician, 140 people per one dentist. So anyway, the ratios are smaller in Marin County. Wouldn't you know it? Because lots of medical people want to be down in Marin County because you can make lots more money than up here. Because up here, you got a lot of people on welfare, right? And they don't want to pay anything. So it's a problem. Well, the other problem is a lot of people are doing drugs up here. Did you know that? And so, Dr. Cassidy has a lot of patients that are addicts, but a lot of medical people don't want to take people that are taking painkillers, that are strung out on painkillers. So it's a problem. And so I was mentioning earlier that John Nicoletti, who was a supervisor for a few years, and Mary Jane Griego, who was a supervisor for too many years, the longer they stayed in office, the bigger they got. And I thought, that's a bad sign right there. People in office, they get richer and fatter. That's a bad sign. So they came up with an idea. Mary Jane Griego wanted to put a limit on the amount of fast food restaurants. Again, that's like removing guns. Like if we remove restaurants, then we can solve obesity. So that's stupid. That's what they call, guys that I know in prison and jail, they call that stinking thinking. And a lot of, you think that, that just resides in prisons and jails. No, it actually resides throughout society. And politicians have a corner on it. You take a politician, maybe he was a mechanic, or he sold insurance, or he's a farmer. You put him in a place of a supervisor, all of a sudden he becomes an expert on obesity, or he becomes an expert on aeronautics, or an expert on water, or he's just an expert on everything. After you give him about 3 or 4 years, and he becomes an expert, and anything you talk to him about, he knows all about it. They're actually full of baloney. The reason the founders believed that we wanted as little government as possible is people get full of themselves, and they get euphoric on the amount of power they have, and come up with all these ideas to take your money from you and go out and spend it, and then pat themselves on the back. You remember that picture in the Appeal Democrat about 14 Forward, where they put people in little, actually, there's a lot of my friends have better shacks for their Labrador retrievers than that 14 Forward, where they put those tough sheds up for human beings, right? And we all pat ourselves on the back. The supervisors are down there. They're making $80,000 a year and only meet twice a month. And they're all down there standing at 14 Forward, where those little shacks don't have electricity. You can't take a pee in one. They don't have anything, right? Can't even take a shower down there. You got to go next door to the mission. And they're all, that's politicians for you down there, slapping themselves on the back, taking a big smiley face, and then going to put it in a little frame and glass and put it on their wall, how they changed the world by spend a couple $100,000 buying sheds and putting them in a cyclone fence, and we call it now Bendorf Zoo. It's pretty crazy out there. Hey, I didn't actually finish what we were trying to talk. I should have given a little introduction here today. So it's actually warm in here today. I got my coat on, but the fish aren't frozen, and I thought maybe the heat was on in here today, but maybe it's the sun's out. That's the deal. So we're out here on top of Mount Huth, and we didn't have to throw it into four-wheel drive today. We just kind of drove in. The sun was out. And this is the Patriot, 1410 AM. This is an AM operation, if that's of any concern to you. And you can dial us up today because we're live at 530-742-5555. Again, 530-742-5555. This is a pro-choice show, so if I need to abort your call because you're inconvenient or you're cramping my career style, I'm going to have to abort you and take that call sometime else, or Wikiman could maybe help you with your problem. So Wikiman is Santos Vigil. We call him that because if I get a brain freeze, he just figures it out on Wikipedia. Well, somebody the other day I saw some post or something where it said, we graduated. These are for all the people who graduated before there was an internet. I thought, how did people graduate before there was an internet? And somebody pointed over. They said, yeah, that's our internet. And there was 3 feet of encyclopedias, right? Right? There were 3 feet, all the encyclopedias from A to Z, right? And everything, all the knowledge known to man was just on the shelf right there. You just go read to your heart's desire. So anyway, this is KMYC, The Patriot. And if you want to listen to us in another way other than on the radio, you can go to your computer and go to KMYCradio.com. Fidel, who stopped by the house, he's with AT&T and just solved all my problems yesterday quick. In fact, on Thursday, I called AT&T the first time, and usually they'll get a guy out in a couple days. And so I'm talking to this automated person, and they said, oh, we'll be out. Do you want us to come? Right now, we'll be out. Boom. Shakalaka. Boom. I said, yeah, come right out. Come right out. We'll be out between 8. It was 9. They said, we will be out between 8 a.m. and 4. I was talking to them at 9:15. I said, that's fast. We're going to go back to the future. And so that dude came out and worked on my deal. And then the next day, Fidel came, and he had me, but he got a kick out of it because he said, hey, I saw you were the guy that called in, and he said, you're on the radio, right? He said, I listen to you. And so he said, when I can't listen to you, then I go to that YouTube deal. So if you can't listen to us if you want to listen to us live, simulcast, if you got poor reception, you can go to KMYCradio.com and click on the listen live icon or button. But if you want to go to YouTube, you can't listen to it today. You got something more important to do. You can go to One Eye Blind Media on YouTube. That's 4 words separated by a space, like in a sentence. One Eye Blind Media, and look at Live with Lou and pick your show. And you miss a little bit because we can't send the YouTube clips over there because it's a copyright issue. I don't understand all the legalities, but I do try to follow the law. So we're going to come right back, and we're going to be here for 2.5 more hours, whether you love it or not. All right, welcome back. This is Live with Lou Benninger here with the Wikiman, and we are plowing ahead live on Mount Hood today. We're waiting for some snow or rain or something to go on so we can be excited because we're out of it. And all you people out there that are not out of it, they're out there sleeping along the river, why don't you go over someplace else and move in? Get rid of those cats. Get rid of that hypodermic needle. Choose another place to live. There's a lot of options out there, like my friend in jail who he was doing meth for Jesus. And he said, oh, I knew you were going to bring up the mission. I said, yeah, you don't like the mission? Huh. It's just like I always say, a starving man never needs a menu. He just says, bring me some of that food. I don't know what it is. Whatever you got back there, just bring me some hot food. I'll eat whatever you got. Same place that people get cold enough out there. I remember my daddy used to take me when we used to haul to the dump down in the Riverfront Park area, and we used to drive over by the East Street Bridge, and he would point down there. He said, see those people down there, Lou? I'd say, yep. I was about 8 years old. Never forget it. He says, they live down there. I said, what? They live down there? He said, yep. That's all he would say. Then on some cold night when I'd be getting tucked in the middle of the winter, it'd be cold, Northern California, sleety rain, cold, freezing, beating on my window out there. He tucked me in. He said, you remember those people under that bridge down there? I said, yep. He said, well, they're still there. And then he'd walk off. That's all he would say. Left a big impression on me. I like to stay inside. Well, I wanted to mention that the Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots are keeping us in business out here, me and Wikiman, helping us pay some of the bills, and so we tell you about them. They got a lot of cool meetings coming up. I want to just give you a shout out about them. This Monday night, there's a lot of, the sheriffs are all up for election. And the two sheriffs, the Yuba County, Sutter County sheriffs are retiring, Paul Parker and Stephen Durfer. And we have people running for both of those spots. And you can meet them all this Monday night, the 19th, at the Tea Party Patriots meeting out at the Church of Glad Tidings campus in Building 200. And it starts at 6:30, but you can get in there at 6, and you can ask some questions of these candidates, and they're going to be strutting their stuff. Now, this is really interesting because with the the entire state of California going communist, and the government, now we have the Attorney General that's going to come after businesses if you help the federal government root out any illegals. You will be prosecuted by Mr. Becerra, Xavier Becerra. So we have people that are, the state government is now going to oppress the cities and counties and come after us if we don't come into line with their communist ideology. And so this whole concept of what a sheriff is and the power of a sheriff is coming to bear during this election. So the Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots is doing the community a service by holding this meeting where you can talk and listen to and talk and ask questions of the potential candidates for sheriff. And then they're going to do something else. A few days later, after the Monday night meeting, on the 25th of March, there's going to be a one-day seminar called a Constitutional Sheriff Seminar, put on by the same group, Tea Party Patriots, and coordinated by Tammy Reichard. And if you don't know anything about that, I'm not going to go into it right this minute because Tammy is going to come on the show here between 10:30 and 11, starting at about 10:30, and talk about what the significance and the power of a constitutional sheriff, what that means in our Constitution. Who is the sheriff? What kind of power does he have or she have? And it should be very interesting, and it's really important right now because you want to elect a sheriff, according to Tammy, that's a constitutional sheriff. And there's going to be a actual sheriff speaking at the event on March 25, and that's Sheriff Mack, who's actually written a book about the powers of a constitutional sheriff. You may never have thought about that because the school system doesn't think it's important to talk about the Constitution anymore because elected officials ignore the Constitution. You know, when I became a trustee for the County Office of Education in Yuba, they made me swear to uphold the Constitution, but nobody really does that. They just swear, and that's all they do. They just swear, but they never act. And so the Tea Party Patriots meet on the first and third Monday night of the month out at Glad Tidings. And the second meeting coming up, we have this meeting on the 19th, and the next meeting will be the first meeting in April. And then you can go and hear from the Yuba County Board of Supervisors. There's going to be a town hall with the Yuba County Board of Supervisors. That should be interesting. That's quite a group. So go, put that on your calendar, okay? So check it out. Don't miss this Monday night. This is going to be a very interesting. They got 3 candidates for sheriff in Sutter County and 2 in Yuba. So it should be a fun evening and very interesting. And we got lots of issues right now. I mean, we got the marijuana issues. We got the homeless issues. It's crazy. Okay. So we were talking about obesity and people in America looking like they're overinflated. So I got a text out of Hagerman, Idaho right now, and they said they looked at themselves in the mirror this morning after I said that, and they said, we think we're a little overinflated up here. So that's my folks that moved out of Marysville because the costs were getting too high after they got up to Hagerman. They got a really good deal on a nice house up there, and they pay, I think they said they paid their garbage, their sewage, and their drinking water $88 a month or something like that. I pay, man, I'll tell you, the cost of living in California, if I wasn't like almost 100 years old, I'd move because I'm almost done here. And for me to buy another house and get all moved, just all my junk, it's just a pain in the rear. All right. So I noticed this week, I'm telling you, government, you know, I just was looking at a short clip by Prager University, Dennis Prager, and he was talking about the bigger government gets, the smaller individuals get, and the smaller liberty gets, and the less freedom you have, the less liberty you have, and the less influence and the less importance of the individual. The bigger and bigger government is. And I was looking at a thing from the, I think it was from the local Chamber of Commerce once upon a time here. It's a couple of years old. Put out by Yuba County, I think. And it lists all the industries in our area. And you know who our biggest industry is in Yuba County? Government. By far, government. When you add up all the government agencies, just drive around town, and you add in Beale Air Force Base, and you add in all the government agencies, no wonder they don't think it's important to have retail, because they have schools, and they have all these health departments and police departments and sheriff's departments. And we got people in government telling us whether to wear a hat or not. Is this a hat wearing day? I don't know. Did they tell us today? You know how they do the burn day? This is a burn day. We should have a deal where you dial in and it says this is a day where you need to drink extra water or less water, depending on what the health officer says. Or this is a hat, or this is a sunscreen wearing day. We need that to tell us all about that. So anyway, when you look at employment by industry, pretty much we're just a socialist operation. Crazy. So anyway, I saw this week, you know, we've been talking about shopping carts here, right? You could go in and steal $100 worth of cosmetics and get caught and get cited and probably end up going on probation or going to jail. From Walgreens or CVS, you could steal $100 worth of cosmetics. But if you steal their shopping cart, nobody even cares. You just take the shopping cart home with you and keep it, and you could barbecue under it, you know, use it as a barbecue grill, or you could take it down to the river bottoms and use it as a closet or whatever, right? Nobody even does anything. Cops just drive by. They'll drive right by a person. Doesn't mean they're homeless. Just drive by a person, and they got a cart. But they'll pull you over on a bicycle and see if that's your bicycle. You know, maybe that's a stolen bicycle. But a cart, no, it's free. You got an exemption. So now the city of Yuba City, they're taking aim at stray shopping carts, and you know who they're taking aim at is the business. In other words, they're going to find the business. If they find a CVS shopping cart or a Rite Aid or a Food Max shopping cart down at somebody's house, sitting down at the corner, they're going to pick it up, and I guess they're going to find whoever belongs to whatever company that is. I thought, that's amazing. So somebody steals your property, and then you get fined, right? It's like if somebody breaks into my house and does a home invasion, then I'm fined by calling the police and having them come over to investigate it instead of them going after the cops. That's the most backward thinking. They got this Arnoldo Rodriguez. Now, Arnoldo, he's kind of famous because he was in on the beer Nazi operation with Kumar Kairam. Arnoldo and Darren Gale, who were supposed to be helping businesses, Arnoldo's, you know, his title is Development Services Director, but he tried to destroy my friend Kumar by forbidding him to sell a 16-ounce beer, him and old Darren Gale. You know, these guys say they're development director. Actually, they undo development. They damaged. You know, in a righteous society, Kumar should have sued the city for 3 years worth of lost business because of there's no law against him selling a single 16-ounce beer. But they made a ruling, and they got the ABC, Alcohol Beverage Control, to add that to his license. That just out of the blue, they just got up one morning, brushed their teeth, and said, we're going to eliminate 16-ounce beers from him selling them. I thought, you people, these people got so much power, they're inebriated by it. They're under the influence of it. They think they're full of it. They've lost their minds. And they just run around and put new rules on society. I said earlier that Dennis Prager says that the bigger government gets, the smaller you become. It's interesting, the Founding Fathers wanted the individual in society to be preeminent and the government have a very, very small footprint. In our community, you ever see those deals where they say, oh, we saw Bigfoot. We saw signs of Bigfoot. He's got a big print. Government prints is all over your rear end and your life, right? Let me just get back to my other page here. I want to just say, this is, some comedians, the reason they're good comedians is they're very bright people, but they say things in a way that catch your attention. So this is some comments. I'm going to edit them. I'm going to audio edit them a little bit from Jeff Foxworthy. He said if plastic water bottles are okay, but plastic bags are banned, you might be living in a nation that was founded by geniuses but run by idiots. If you get arrested for hunting and fishing without a license, but not for entering and remaining in the country illegally, you can finish out the rest of it. If you have to get your parents' permission to go on a field trip or take an aspirin in school but not get an abortion, then you're living in a nation, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. If you must show your identification to board a plane, cash a check, buy liquor, check out a library book, or rent a video, but not vote on who runs the entire government, you might be living in a nation founded by geniuses but run by idiots. If your government wants to prevent stable, law-abiding citizens from owning gun magazines that hold more than 10 rounds, but gives 20 F-16 fighter jets to a dictator in Egypt or somewhere else, you might be living in a nation started by geniuses, maintained by idiots. If in the nation's largest city you can buy 2 16-ounce sodas but not one 24-ounce soda because 24 ounces of sugary drink might get you fat, you might live in a nation started by geniuses, maintained by idiots. If an 80-year-old woman who's confined to a wheelchair or 3-year-old girl can be strip searched by TSA, but a woman in a burqa or hijab is only subject to having her neck and head searched, etc. If your government believes that the best way to eradicate trillions of dollars of debt is to spend trillions more, you might be living in I'll let you finish that out. If a 7-year-old boy can be thrown out of school for saying his teacher looks cute, I had some hot-looking teachers when I was in school, but instead hosting a sexual exploration or diversity class in grade school is perfectly acceptable, yeah, you got an operation run by idiots. If hard work and success are met with higher taxes and more government regulation and intrusion, while not working is rewarded with food stamps, WIC checks, Medicaid benefits, subsidized housing, and free cell phones, you might be hanging out with idiots. If you pay your mortgage faithfully, denying yourself the newest big screen TV while your neighbor buys iPhones, timeshares, a wall-size do-it, all plasma TV and new cars, and the government forgives his debt when he defaults on his mortgage, you might be hanging out with people running your show called idiots. If you've been stripped of your constitutional right to defend yourself and it makes you more safe according to your government, you might be hanging out with nutcases running your government. I'm telling you, people, we got a problem, and we need to be tuned into what's shaking here. I've been watching over the weekend this Andrew McCabe. He's a guy that was second in command at the FBI. You know, he's filling in there for a while. And this guy hated Trump. You know, the FBI, it's you've seen those movies about the South and the wicked sheriff, you know, the corrupt sheriff and all his deputies that are racist and full of crap down in the South, and the whole place needs to be shaken down. And then the FBI comes down there, and they're all straight shooters and honest and all got white hats on, and they straighten it all out and solve the problem. Now it's like the FBI is all corrupt. We got Comey's a liar, Mueller's a liar, McCabe's a liar, Strzok's a liar. He's screwing somebody else's wife, you know, and McCabe's wife gets $600,000 from the Clinton Foundation through Terry McAuliffe because she's running for office, and then he is put in charge of after he gets $600,000 through the Clinton Foundation. Then he's the same guy that's actually investigating Clinton emails and doesn't find anything that we should need to like prosecute her on. I'm telling you, people. And then he's like whining about his pension. That sucker, we need to take him back outside and jack slap him till he can think straight. What a whiny little baby. What an embarrassment to the United States of America. That actually it took us all this time. And Comey's now writing a book, and he's going to charge $75 for a signature sign. I thought, honestly, these people are so full of crap. And now they're going to, and the liberal media is all whining because we're wanting to protect McCabe. McCabe, I tell you what, we need to put McCabe over here in Yuba County Jail and let a lot of those other guys that we got locked up over there out. They did lots less crimes than McCabe did. Honestly. That's a bad sign right there when I run into that music. We'll be right back. We got 2 more hours. All right. Well, this is Lou Benninger with Wikiman. We're not on meth today, but our friends in the Yuba County Jail wish they were. And but we're feeling all right, even without doing any meth. I told that guy, no wonder he's all fired up about preaching on the streets and stuff. Like, he said, well, you know, Jesus turned water into wine. I said, yeah, what are you doing? Turning sugar into meth? Is that your goal? Anyway, you know, I'm always fascinated by how we do things in society, or events come up or a holiday comes up or something. People have no idea what it's all about. Or a saying, we have a colloquial saying or whatever, and people wondered, I wonder where that came from. So St. Patrick's Day is one of those days, and I had the luxury, actually, I was flying back from, I was actually going to Africa to check out this project over there, and on the way back, I thought, oh, this lady had invited me to visit in Ireland, and I'd never been to Ireland, but I was always been interested in the IRA and the fight over in Ireland. And so she said, oh, come to Belfast. That's where I live. And I'd met her down in Mexico. So she said, I live in Belfast. And she said, if you want to come there, I'll take you around Ireland, take you for a tour. So anyway, on the way back, I was flying through Europe. And so I just got off at Heathrow Airport in London and caught a hop over to Ireland and spent a week just kicking around Northern Ireland and going through some of those revolutionary villages over there. That was when the fight was on down in the early 90s. And so I learned a lot about Patrick there. And then when I took a real great course, if you ever get a chance to take this, you should take it, particularly if you're a Christian person, is a perspectives on the world Christian movement. And they teach a lot about in there, a lot about Patrick and how who he really was. So I want to play you a clip today, since it's St. Patrick's Day, or he wouldn't have really called himself saint. It would be Patrick's Day on, I think it's this week. But I think this will be interesting for you, so you at least know that it's not about green, beer, and pinching everybody. All right, so let's go. Are we there? It's over. Okay. It just clicked off. I thought maybe we lost something. All right. So you know what catches me about that? You know, with all the discussion today about people wanting reparations for somebody in their past that were held as slaves. I don't know whether you caught that, but Patrick was held as a slave for years, and then it didn't get into it in this description, but in other things I've read about Patrick, he actually got a dream from God, and it told him how to escape. And it told him where a ship would be on the coast, and he had to, travel for many, many miles to get there. And the timing of the ship being there was all foretold to him in a dream. He got there, got on the ship, and was able to escape back to his home, which was in Britain. But then God again spoke to him, and I want you to think about this with all people still whining about slavery today. No one today has ever been held in slavery. And he went actually back to his people, back to the people that he was held slaves by and slavery by, and went to his slave master and talked to him about Jesus. Just a little different attitude than folks today. Just thought I'd pass that on to you. And also the fact that in terms of the Christian movement in the world, Patrick would be considered what they call an apostle or a church planner. And other clips you can read about Patrick tells how he started maybe 300 or more churches in Ireland, and even as a result of his work, 100,000 people converted to Christianity. Now, with the secular government in the United States and liberals today, they think, well, that's a bad thing. But it was a little gnarly in Ireland. If you ever hear the Celtic music and you think, oh, I love Celtic music, the Celts actually sacrificed human beings. I don't know whether you ever known that or not. But human sacrifice was a big issue in Ireland. And so Patrick confronted the Irish worshiping of idols, like they would worship river gods, fire gods, wind gods, all that stuff. And so the King of Ireland told them to snuff out all the fires and make the entire nation dark, except for one fire that they were all going to go to honor this God, and they were all going to go back to get their fire from this one area. And Patrick ignored that and lit his own fire and confronted the entire nation, including the king, and withstood the whole place and began to turn the whole idol worship and sacrificing of human beings around. So you think that the Irish actually at one time didn't even have any cities. They were a tribal, village-living people. There were no roads. It was just totally wild, with wild people killing and savaging people and sacrificing them on altars. That's the kind of deal Patrick walked into. So if you're hanging out at a bar today drinking green beer and doing wild things, at least you know the truth now. So we were talking about obesity, and I was, let's see, where was I on this? Looking at Nicole Quick. Do you know who Nicole Quick is over in Yuba County? Nicole Quick is the health officer for Yuba County, and I think we're fortunate to get her. She replaced Dr. Cassidy. Dr. Cassidy was an expert, is an expert in addiction, and has thousands of addicts that have come to his to get his services over the years. Nicole Quick is also an expert in addiction, and she's helped people deal with pain problems and addictive problems with opiates, etc., with her mother, who's also a doctor. Anyway, Nicole Quick said recently completed community health assessment report identified lack of access to medical professionals as being an obstacle the county faces. One of the problems is they don't want to put up with the nonsense as with the people around here, ungrateful people that are weird. And she says, we recognize it as a problem. Recruiting and maintaining health professionals is one of the challenges the county faces. Right now is well, anyway, I won't go on with the whole deal. You know, one of the problems is that government is so involved with medical right now. Doctors think, hey, I don't have to put up with this nonsense with people on all kinds of these screwy medical programs that are think they're entitled. So doctors, ultimately, we're not at the place of communism yet where they hold a gun to a doctor's head and said, you got to serve that person. You know, it's kind of like, I don't know whether they still have it, but at some restaurants, they used to put no shirt, no shoes, and there was one other's no something. And so they said, we have the opportunity to refuse your service, right? No service, no shirt, no shoes, no service. So docs in their own way can just say, you know, I'm not going to serve you. For instance, I used to tell Dr. Cassidy, these addicts would make an appointment, and he'd make it really easy to help them, and they wouldn't show up. I thought I'd fire them. You know, doctors can fire patients. You ever heard of that? Where the doctor said, I'm not going to serve you anymore. I've heard of that. And I said, I'd fire that dude, doc. And so one of the problems is the government right now has, you know, if you go to Rideout Hospital, they have what they call the Rapids part of the new ER, Rapids. They call it the Rapids. That means it's rapid service if you have all kinds of minor health needs compared to a stroke or heart attack, or you just got shot in the side of the head. So, but that place is flooded with people because they're too irresponsible to go to the regular doctor during the day and have a regular doctor, right? Or that they don't have any health insurance because they didn't go apply for it, etc. You know, it's just like being irresponsible. So a lot of the problems in our county are self-inflicted problems. When people are loaded on drugs all day or on alcohol all day, they don't take care of business, do they? So that's just the way it is. I noticed this article. This is actually from Pensacola, Florida, where I have some friends down there. But it could have been from Yuba County. It said a Pensacola woman is facing battery charge for allegedly physically assaulting her nephew when she fell on top of a goat while intoxicated. And I thought that could be happening right here in Oliver, Sir Linda. right, or up in the foothills. So this gal goes into barn. Deputies made contact with a man who told them that his aunt, Jan Strickland, had come inside the barn located on the property to hold a goat. That's a bad sign right there when they're in there fussing around with the goat drunk. The arrest report stated that Strickland's level of intoxication caused her to fall on the goat, and her nephew then removed her, and then she kicked him against the barn. Anyway, that's the kind of problem we have here in our county. And that's down there in Florida, where Carlos was having sex with that doodle, that miniature donkey. So, when you have people like that, you're going to have a hard time taking care of their health, right? But then we have these surveys where somehow the responsible people that are paying their taxes and going to work every day and feeding their kids and washing the clothes and paying their bills, those people somehow get blamed for all this. When Wiki and I worked at Church of Glad Tidings for years, and you help people wanting to get a box of food every once in a while. You probably got in. Do you ever see one of those people with their ribs showing? No, they were all obese, right? It's interesting. All these people that want food are overweight. Now hold that thought. They're overinflated. So down in Jacksonville, Florida, 108 people were caught up in a sting, a food stamp fraud sting. Hold this thought. Now I want you to think. All these liberals go, oh my God, I can't believe Trump. He's actually going to send them the food they should be eating instead of giving them those cards. You remember Schwarzenegger? How under Schwarzenegger's reign here, people were using their EBT cards at the casinos, right? And on cruise ships. It's unbelievable. The lack of, the government just can't manage anything. So did you know they're already sending those boxes of foods out? Did you know that? They're switching from EBT and they're starting to send commodities out. Did you know that? I saw it. Somebody told me that the other day, that they talked about it. They're already doing it. So anyway, 198 people were arrested in Jacksonville, fraud totaling $3.7 million. I want you to just think about that. That's money that was forcibly taken from you and me, that they just gave away, and people use it on drugs, alcohol, crazy stuff. Jacksonville Sheriff's Office detectives working with federal and state agencies documented more than 22,000 fraudulent transactions involving $3.7 million in tax money from 2012 to 2017, dealing with this food stamp, what they call SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. This thing is so screwed up. And so undercover officers personally observed 115 individuals and 390 fraudulent transactions in just about 6 months in 2017, for instance. So it's very interesting how you wonder, how do they do this? How do these people, these criminals, how do they think all these things up? Williams said they sold very little merchandise, as most of their volume was exchanging SNAP benefits for cash. So one of the ways they did this is some of these people started fictitious businesses. I'll give you an example here. Let me scroll down here on my computer. And so they had businesses like Luan Walker's Produce, RNS Mobile Meats, or Sisters Mobile Meats, right? And so another one, let's see if we got another, Shiona's Seafood, and Urco Ballers Produce. These were fictitious businesses, right? And so they had a little merchandise. They were mobile, like a little pickup truck, right? And so you'd go and you'd give them an EBT card. They would swipe it or whatever they do with it, and then they would split the cash, and no merchandise would be transacted. So, for instance, Shiona's Seafood opened from 2013 November to August 2015, 2 years. She did almost 4,000 transactions and $1.2 million in business. No seafood, right? And Ballers Produce from 2012 to 2015, did 7,200 fraudulent transactions, $1.1 million in SNAP sales, food stamp sales. And so anyway, they arrested some people in each of these deals. Let me do the other one. They just set up, they said, hey, why go to the store and convince a legitimate store owner to give me money back, right? Why don't we just create fictitious businesses? I thought, what a brilliant idea. These guys should get they should go into some other legitimate business. RNS Mobile Meats and Sisters Mobile Meats. They lasted a couple of years, almost 4,000 fraudulent transactions, $572,000, arrested 4 people. Luan Walker's Produce, 7,400 transactions, $1 million in business. I thought these people thought they went to heaven, man. They went to snap heaven. So that's what's going on. There's fraud all over the place. There's fraud in this county, in Sutter County. And the welfare system, I don't know about Yuba County, but I am familiar with Sutter County because I know some of the investigators over there in Sutter County, and they say Sutter County does not investigate welfare fraud. They haven't had a welfare fraud case in years. They just give the stuff away, and it's just less work if you just ignore it. For instance, you can come in from Butte County, and you could file for welfare in Sutter County and just give an address. They don't even check you out. You just start collecting. It's like that guy we talked about last week. He'd been collecting. He didn't even live in the United States. He lived in Tijuana. He came across and set his false identity up. Did I say he collected almost $400,000 over the years? Yeah. And it's just a state so easy to rip off, right? I never think about it because I'm not interested in ripping somebody off. So, isn't that true? So anyway, let's go back to this shopping cart thing. This cracks me up because Arnaldo and these guys over there at the city of Yuba City, you'd think that they would arrest the people stealing something as opposed to the person got stolen from. But in Yuba City, everything's flipped upside down, right? So they're going to go after all these businesses that have these carts. So maybe we're going to have to hire, maybe they could, you know what they ought to do is hire Monty Hecker with elite security and have Monty's group monitor people when they walk out of the store with a shopping cart, that they just don't head on down the street with it, right? But they keep it and dump their stuff, right? Take it out in bags or put it in a car. I keep running into this black gal out there in the parking lot. She's always want me to pay her way to Roseville. She shows up she's at Walgreens, and then she's over at Sam's Club. And you see, I said, you're always needing to ride to Roseville. Why don't you stay in Roseville? Quit coming up here. What the heck? This gal's always saying, can you just help me for the future? I said, don't you remember me? We did this 3 days ago. Is it hilarious? I mean, people are crazy. I tell you, I told people that joined the TIP program, I said, quit watching all this drama on TV. Just get involved in the drama. It's the same way with like Marysville. You don't have to watch. I don't even have a television. Just go out on the streets and you can like become a part of the whole action. It's just like, it's like, hey, it's like entertaining. So anyway, these guys in the city of Yuba City, I think they need to hire that consultant that Marysville just hired for $12,000 for one day to give them some advice on how to track down these shopping carts. But Monty Hecker with Elite Universal Security, if you contact Monty, I think he could figure out a way to solve this shopping cart problem, because he caught the guy that was pooping in the back of that office over behind El Zarapi. He put a camera on that guy and caught him. He stole his coffee, he got himself a free coffee somewhere, stole a newspaper, and came over and used the back of this business to do his business, hung out there for a while, enjoyed the life, and then moved on and left all his business right there. So anyway, if you want to call up Monty at 749-0280, if you're a business owner and you want to try to solve your shopping cart theft, I think Monty could solve it for you, because he said, Lou, I keep running myself out of business. I go get hired, and then I solve the problem. Then they don't want to keep me hired because I fixed it. 749-0280, Elite Universal Security. If you want somebody that actually won't just do something like the government does, just run through the motions, but actually solve your problem. All right, we're going to take a break, and we're coming right back, and we're going to talk to Tammy Reichert about constitutional sheriffs.
Hello, Liberty-loving patriots. This is Chrisanne Hall, Liberty's lobbyist and founder of Liberty First University. You're listening to Live with Lou on KMYC 1410 AM, The Patriot. The founding fathers and mothers didn't pledge their lives, their fortunes, their sacred honor, so we could sit around and rest on their laurels. They expected us to exercise our God-given rights and to practice eternal vigilance, to monitor and hold accountable our fellow citizens to whom we delegate power. The federal government is not the supreme law of the land. The Constitution is. To learn more about the Constitution and to help Lou and me get the word out about how our founders truly wanted this republic to operate, be sure to tune in to Live with Lou every Saturday from 9 a.m. to noon. Visit me at chrisannhall.com and at libertyfirstuniversity.com.
All right, this is Lou Benninger. You're listening to Live with Lou. I want you to think about if you had done 1/10 of what the Clintons had done, Mueller's done, Clapper's done, Comey's done, McCabe's done, Strzok's done, all these people, you would be locked up and you were in private business. There's two standards what's going on here. We have essentially a socialist aristocracy that's running this country, and people are exempt from the law. They can do whatever they want, and you have to catch them, and then when we even catch them, it's like, oh, well, you know, you're just politically assassinating my character. But if you're in the private sector and you get caught on the slightest thing, or you, it's just like try filing your taxes late and see how gracious they are about that, or not filing them for a year, or making an error. See how gracious they are about that, right? Well, okay, we're into our another little segment here, and we're going to talk about constitutional sheriffs. And in the studio today is Tammy Reichert. Good morning.
Good morning, Lou.
You feeling good?
I am, yeah.
Come on, you're looking good. So here we are, and we're going to talk about constitutional sheriffs, and Tammy is hosting, along with the Sutter Butte Tea Party Patriots, right? It's a combo deal. Mm-hmm. This meeting on the 25th of March. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so Sutter Butte's Tea Party Patriots, we're all about getting constitutional people elected to office to represent us. We've also started another group called the Sutter Yuba Constitutional Republicans, and their specific goal is to get constitutional people elected to office, and specifically local office, because there seems to be a little bit of a missing piece in this community. I mean, people are all about the governor and the president and, you know, the higher offices, but more importantly, the local offices are really something that's significant, and people don't really understand, you know, the importance of the authority held by a local office, and specifically a sheriff.
So I think I get it, but let's, for the sake of everybody that's listening, let's spell out when we say get constitutional people elected, what does that really mean, constitutional people?
Yeah, so what that means is every elected official, before they take their office, they swear an oath.
Right.
And I believe you mentioned it earlier. I mean, people have gotten into this. It's there's no ceremony to it. It's you go to, you know, stand in front of the city clerk or the county clerk and you raise your hand and they're taking their oath, but I don't think it really sits with them or magnifies with them what that means. And they don't even understand the document they're swearing an oath to uphold and protect and defend. So my whole purpose is to educate not only the people running for these offices, the people holding the offices, the citizens electing these people to hold those offices, exactly what is in that Constitution. So one of the things that's in the Constitution is, it's in the state Constitution, gives that authority to the sheriff. And that's where he gets his local authority from. So, and the other misconception people have, and this is why it's such a significant role, the local county sheriff, is because we've all been trained that government is set up exactly reverse of what it actually is. So people always think, oh, I'm a state police, I'm a state trooper, I have more authority than you as a city cop. Or, I'm a federal agent, I have way more authority than you because I work for the big bad federal government.
Right.
And it's so exactly the opposite. That is not the way our whole formula was set up originally by our founding fathers. It was exactly the opposite. We enumerated in a constitutional document saying this is the authority we're going to give our federal government. And then our 10th Amendment says anything else not listed here,
Right.
that's remained reserved for the states. So, and beyond that, they put a little clause in there to make sure that the government wouldn't dream up new things. They have the 9th Amendment, which is another very important amendment. The 9th Amendment says if we forgot anything, if we left it out, if it's not specifically enumerated, it doesn't belong to you.
It doesn't belong to the feds.
Exactly, the federal government. So don't be thinking that it does. And then, so the states have more power than the federal government. The other thing that people don't understand is the states, we're actually sovereign. We are sovereign states. We're on equal footing to any other country in the world. We're on equal footing to Great Britain. We're on equal footing to France. And they don't understand that because it's no longer these United States.
Right. They kind of blur it all
They
together.
blur it. Yeah. So now we've become the United States as,
Right.
we're one country, which we are, but we're a union.
Right.
We're a union of individual sovereign states that have more power than the few enumerated powers that we gave to the federal government. So,
Right.
and you can see what those enumerated powers are. If you go to, it spells out our 3 branches of government in the Constitution. Article 1 is where it gives the legislative power. And if you look to Section 8 in Article 1 in the Constitution, there's actually 18 things listed. And that is what those powers that they gave to the legislator or legislative branch, what their realm of operation is. And they can't go outside and beyond that. It also says in the very beginning of that article, if you look very carefully and you went to 2nd grade, and it says all legislative powers reside with this legislative branch. That means there's nothing left over for anything else. The president doesn't make laws.
Right.
The judicial does not make law. And that's, and then you have all these local, unregulated, unelected agencies going around there passing regulation, which is
Right.
another law. And that is what unconstitutional is.
Right.
There is a design, there is a formula to follow, and we haven't been following that.
Right.
And people ask me all the time, why is this happening? Why is it work this way? And it's a simple answer. It's because we let them.
Right.
Because we let it happen, and
Right.
we haven't. What we need to do is reset. The Constitution. It's not a document that's outdated and irrelevant.
Right.
It's a very relevant formula. It's how things are supposed to work.
So many of the regulations, for instance, recently that Trump is retracting that Obama put in, those weren't regulations coming from the legislature. Those were just agencies coming up with the way they think life ought to be, right?
Right. Yeah. And those
And
agency regulations, they're not law. They're
not law.
pretended legislation. They're
And
not.
so people in fear of those agencies, in other words, if you don't obey them, we're going to sue you and take all your money, right?
Right.
So people just bend over, right? Because they don't have the power to fight the agencies.
Right.
So that's what you're talking about then, where to violate, those agencies are violating the Constitution by having the power to regulate when it hasn't gone through the House of Representatives and the Senate, for instance.
Right. Yeah. That is the lawmaking body in our government.
Right.
That's where it's supposed to come from.
So let's talk, the way I've always thought about it is like before California existed, there were towns in California. People came and settled here, and they called the shots, right? They ran their own little communities. And then they formed a state for protection or for representation on a higher scale, right?
Right.
So it seems to me even the state, which now we're kind of looking at, like, is the state going to come down here and sue businesses? Is the state going to that don't want to work with Trump on immigration issues, or what can they do regarding the Second Amendment, right? And so you're talking about the constitutional sheriff. So why don't you dial that in? So who is the most powerful entity in a county?
That would be your county sheriff. He's the ultimate authority, authority in the county. And the greatest thing about that, of him being the ultimate authority, is we elect him.
Yeah.
So, we as citizens get to say who we think should have that ultimate authority in our county. So that's a huge leverage to have. That's all the power resides with we the people. Mm-hmm. We're the ones deciding. So if he's behaves badly, then we can recall him. We can
Right.
put somebody else in his place.
So the Bundys, when we had the big Bundy flare up in Nevada, they appealed to the Clark County sheriff, who didn't do his job, did he? He kind of folded.
He did. His job was to interpose on behalf of the people.
And tell the federal government to get out.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
And he
'cause
has that authority.
He has that. So most people think that the federal government, if they want to take authority over the state, they can do that, right?
Right. And it's exactly the opposite. The sheriff, they're supposed to communicate with the sheriff. We've had activity in our local county before by DHS and different things. And
Homeland Security.
Homeland Security. They're supposed to go to the sheriff office and get their permission, so to speak, work cooperatively with the
Right.
sheriff. And the sheriff has every right and duty, if need be, to deny that opportunity to them.
Right.
That this is his jurisdiction, so they have to follow his rules in his jurisdiction.
Okay. So you're putting on this event on the 25th, and what's going to happen at that day? Is that an all-day event?
It's going to start at 9:00 in the morning,
Okay.
and we are going to go till 4. The morning session is going to be presented by Sheriff Richard Mack in person. He's flying out here from Arizona. He'll be here to present his portion of the seminar, and we're hoping that we're going to entice the local sheriff candidates to go to this seminar, and they can meet with him, speak with him, and get some direct feedback from Sheriff Mack.
So is Sheriff Mack currently an acting sheriff in a county in Arizona?
He is a retired sheriff.
Okay.
Yeah, he's a retired sheriff. He's written several books. He's most renowned for when he was an active sheriff in the 90s. In 1992, he actually sued the Clinton administration over what then was called the Brady Bill. It was like an assault weapons ban at the time.
Right.
And he interposed on behalf of the people in his county, and he said, this is an infringement of our constitutional right to keep and bear arms, and we're not going to follow this federal rule in our county. And so he actually took it all the way to the Supreme Court, and he won. So that tells you something, that he was doing
Right.
his duty. Now, he will tell you himself, if that were to occur today, he wouldn't have taken that same action. He says he would not have sued the federal government. And the reason why is because, simply put, the federal government just plain and simple did not have the authority to impose that on the
So
people.
why even sue
So
them?
why
Just
even
ignore
sue
it. Just ignore them.
Suing
Yeah.
them is acknowledging that they have some kind of power, which
Right.
they don't.
So when John Augustini, sheriff of El Dorado County, when Barack Obama and Biden were going to unilaterally just put the clamp down on certain firearms, Augustini wrote them and said, you can do what you want. That's your business. But here, we're going to follow the Constitution. That's all he said. No suit. He just declared it, and that was the end of it.
Right.
So I thought, in other words, he acted as if Mac would be doing that today, right?
Right.
That
Yeah.
Maybe he learned from Mac.
Hopefully he did. And Sheriff Mack has had a big impression on a lot of people. He has an organization called the Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. He was the founder of that group, and he's educated a lot of local sheriffs on just exactly what their role is supposed to be and what their duty is. So they're, to be guardians of our Constitution. They're there to, protect the people from infringements on our natural
Right.
rights.
So he's coming for the first few hours, right?
Right.
And then the rest. So he's going to do some lectures, and will there be questions and answers, et cetera?
Certainly. Yeah.
Yeah. And then what's the rest of the day look like?
So if he'll be from 9 to noon, and then we're providing a lunch for the people who actually pay a registration fee. And there's an opportunity to attend the seminar for free. You can certainly come for free, bring your own sack lunch, because we're not going to be taking an actual break for lunch. We're going to be kind of working through. And the registration fee is at $20. And actually what that covers is books I've pre-ordered. They're books written by Sheriff Mack. I wanted the people who choose to go to the class to be able to take these books home with them, to have something to take with them. So the actual seminar itself, it's not costing anything. You can go, you can, decide later if you want to buy the books on your
Right.
own, but that's essentially what the registration fee is for. So the rest of the afternoon essentially is going to be me talking about, the things that we're discussing as far as how the government was intended to be, how it is set up,
Right.
the formula for the government, the authority, where it lies, that kind of thing. And then specific examples of constitutional sheriffs throughout the country. There are many examples
Yeah.
that we can talk about, but that's basically what's going to be kind of continuing on what Sheriff Mack's going to start in the morning.
Okay. So for people that are listening today that might want to say, I want to contact you and register, what should they do? How should they do it?
They can call me. I have my number on all the flyers. It's
Okay.
530-701-2845.
Okay.
They can email me at tjrikard, RIKARD, @gmail.com. We have the information posted on the websites of both the Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots, the Sutter Yuba Constitutional Republicans. They have websites and Facebooks that they can go retrieve the information from as well.
So the website, SutterButtesTeaParty.org. Is that it?
Is
Or
it on the flyer? 'Cause-
Well, I have, this is what Bill sent me about Bi-County Sheriff's Town Hall. At the bottom, it said SutterButtesTeaParty.org.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bill would know.
So that's a place that you can go, SutterButtesTeaParty.org, and you could look up this information, and we will repeat the number and the website again later. And so if they wanted to just show up, where are they coming?
It's being held at the Church of Glad Tidings. It's going to be Building 500 on that campus, which
Okay.
is the building way in the back, upstairs
Okay.
in room 210, 212.
Okay, so you'll have some signage as they come in
Yes.
that day that
Yeah.
they can follow the breadcrumbs or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
So, okay. And so they could just show up and audit the class if they wanted. Huh?
Yeah, and I
not
do
pay
have
a
some
fee?
people from Nevada County because Sheriff Mack's going to be spending some time in Nevada County with the Nevada County Tea Party. He's actually interviewing their sheriff candidates for them. He's going to be at their sheriff forum. He's unable to be here at the Sutter Buttes Tea Party meeting, which is this Monday when
Right.
we're having our sheriff forum. But because he has other obligations, but he will be doing the Nevada County. So he'll be there, and then he comes to do our seminar on Sunday.
So, do you know about the sheriff's town hall? Are all the sheriff's candidates going to be there? You think that they confirm?
We have most of them confirmed. There was the gentleman from Yuba County. His name escapes me at the moment. He's
Not Wendell Anderson.
Wendell Anderson.
is going to be there or no?
I believe he's the one who, at this point, doesn't think he can make it.
Oh.
He might be checking his schedule to see if he can rearrange something. But as far as I know, I think that's the only one that said he won't be able to make it. And,
Okay.
and hopefully that'll change. We'll see. Maybe he can make an exception or something.
All right. So the current sheriffs, Stephen Durfer and Paul Parker, would you consider them constitutional style sheriffs?
I do. Yeah, I've had. Being with the Sutter Buttes Tea Party, I've
Right.
had
You've
the
talked to them
opportunity
before.
right, and to hear what they have to say, and they've come and done
Talks.
speeches for our group, and I've dealt specifically with Parker in the past on an incident that was brought to my attention from a citizen where they actually did have they had a SWAT team show up at their door late at night. It was probably about 10 o'clock at night. They had about 6 rows deep of people from DHS and FBI, and then I think it was just DHS and I don't think it was Homeland Security. It was DHS and FBI. But they had this. They presented what happened to them, and that gentleman actually lost his weapons. And there are extenuating circumstances all involved in this situation. But the point was that this happened without the sheriff's knowledge.
Oh, he didn't know.
He didn't know this was happening.
Wow.
Yeah, and so when I brought it to his attention, I said, "Hey, did you know this was happening, and why did it happen?" And he replied to I was an email I sent him. He replied, and he had a very, very eloquent response, and he let me know that he wasn't aware that that was going to happen prior to it happening, and he assured me that if this were ever to happen in the future, that he put them on notice that they would go to his office and work with him and notify him ahead of time.
Well, it's interesting that that up in Augustines County, El Dorado, he got so many complaints about the federal people in their parks up there, the national parks, that he finally put them on notice and said, don't cite any of our people. And I think he removed the power that they had to pack weapons and stuff up there. So let's see. So I, just before we wind down here, because we just have a couple of minutes, can you make a couple comments about the course? You've also taught a whole course on the Constitution.
I do, yeah. I teach a 12-week course on the
But
U.S.
you finished you did one a while back. We promoted
I did.
it.
I've started doing them twice a year now so
Okay.
that people know when to expect them, because every time I have one,
They miss it.
Yeah, they miss it, and they say, "Oh, I can't go for this reason," or "When's your next one?" That's the main question. Everybody's always asking, "When's the next one?" Well,
Yes.
now it's consistent, and
So when is the next
it
one?
happens twice a year. The next one starts April 13th, and the second one in the year will begin in September. So every year you can count on April and September. Keep in mind that a 12-week course will start.
So is this you alone doing the lecturing, or do you tag team with someone like Chris Ann Hall? Or do you use her material? Or?
I do use her material. Yeah, I draw from as many resources as I can. These are amazing people that have an in-depth knowledge of the Constitution.
Okay.
But I teach primarily a curriculum from the Institute on the Constitution, which I'm the Northern California chair of that.
Okay.
And I bring that curriculum to this area. And it's a curriculum that once you go through the class, it's very easy for someone to get a host manual and start teaching on their own and do what I do.
So we're here with Tammy Reichard, and so this on the 25th, we're going to have a Constitutional Sheriff's Day, and that's, if you've never been to Church of Glad Tidings, it's a campus, a 35-acre campus. And you could get there by going out to the corner of Highway 99 in Eager or Live Oak Boulevard in Eager, and it covers that whole area. Get into the entryway, and we'll guide you to the right building, Building 500. Or you could just, if you want to put it in your GPS, 1179 Eager Road, and go there and go to the event. We'll mention it again before we get done today. Okay, thank you, Tammy, for coming.
Thank you,
All
Lou.
right.
I appreciate it.
Normally, we never have live people in here, just us boys.
Pleasure to be here.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks.
All right. We're into our last hour. If you just fell out of bed out there in Olivehurst and Linda wondering what time it is, it's 11 o'clock. And you're listening to KNYC The Patriot. And our number is 742-5555. But as I said, we're pro-choice out here, and you may be inconvenient. We may have to abort your call. So you never know. We just are very selective. We're gender selective as well. So some days we feel like letting a woman through. Some days we don't. Some days we feel like letting a man through. Some days we don't. So anyway, you can listen on the One Eye Blind Media. My AT&T buddy, Fidel. Fidel, I hope you're doing something fun with your kids today. Fidel lives here in town, and he says sometimes he goes on One Eye Blind Media on YouTube to catch a show because life gets complicated on Saturdays. So you can do that as well, One Eye Blind Media. Or you can go on KNYCradio.com if you're out there in a county that's the signal is not so hot because we try to save power. It's odd. We have transmitters, but they say we cut down the power. We cut down the transmission so we can save on power. But then to me, I always want to reach more people, but I'm not in charge out here. So anyway, KNYCradio.com, and you could listen live if our live stream is working and the tweakers are all doing their work behind the scenes here. I mentioned earlier that Elite Universal Security, if you need to solve a problem with your business or your house, you got somebody that's doing weird stuff in your area, stealing stuff, messing with your stuff. We got law enforcement that's supposed to protect our private property, but sometimes they just don't get to it. So you have to hire some extra folks on your own after you pay all those taxes, because we're taking care of, when the government's spending money trying to tell me on whether I need to wear a hat or not to keep me from getting cancer on my skin, or whether they warn me to drink enough water. Instead of doing that, they should be hiring more cops. And so Monty Hecker out of Elite Universal Security, you can hire him, and he can solve your policing problems. Also, if you want to take a class, you can go to API Academy, api-academy.com, and you can check into the classes they're offering, all kinds of stuff. You can start over there when you're as young as 18 years of age and take some training on packing a firearm, how to use pepper spray, how to handcuff somebody. You want to go into the business, guard business or police business, taser. You always wanted to shoot somebody with a taser? Monty will let you. Go out there and shoot somebody. De-escalation of force, annual security card training. You can get it done right here in Yuba County. Maybe you're up there in Butte County and you need a job up there. Universal Security is also up there and all the way up into Redding. So go get yourself a job or get yourself some training. Maybe you need to learn how to shoot somebody in case you have some problems out there. Somebody's wanting to mess with you. What you don't want to do is shoot and miss. You want to shoot and hit something. So Monty will teach you how to do that. 7490280, Monty Hecker. He knows what he's doing. Retired military. He's a good guy. He'd take care of business. He ain't going to mess around. He'll solve your problem. They're out there working their rear off over by my house trying to keep the panhandlers from messing around with people and intimidating women. Trying to come over there and shop. Well, okay. You heard Tammy Reichard last half hour. She did a great job. She knows her business. She knows the Constitution. And most of you wouldn't know the Constitution if it blew up on your doorstep. You wouldn't know what that thing was. And the sad fact is, we just let the government trample all over our rights. Tell us how to use water. Tell us how to, when we can have a fire outside or not. We just got all this regulations that our representatives didn't vote on it. Just some bureaucrat decided, like Darren Gale, just come up and decided Kumar can't sell a 12-ounce beer. We didn't vote on it. City Council didn't vote on it. Totally a violation of the Constitution just because he could. I mean, he is that spirit of just going around and creating rules is what we talk about as being the enemy. Just coming up, you can't water your lawn on this day. You can't water your lawn on that day. We can't wash our car unless we have a nozzle on the end of our hose. We can't wash off our concrete with water. You know something? Here's what's odd. You drive down the street, 12 o'clock midnight in the spring or summer, and the government is watering the park, and the heads are broken off the deal and is blowing a geyser. It's blowing hundreds of gallons a minute, right out of geyser on the side of the road, and nobody is paying attention, and it just goes on and on and on. Night after night after night. They water in the middle of the night, which no problem with that, but their equipment is broken, and then they tell us, and they'll cite us if you're watering on the wrong day with these little, what I call the water Nazis, and then their water is running down the gutter in the middle of the night, and we always have a great excuse that, this, that, this. And then they go around and they'll spend all their extra money on $12,000 a day people to come in and tell the city council how to make a decision. I'm telling you, people, it's just stupid out there. The spirit of stupid is on the government. Well, okay. Hope you're enjoying the show. And if you don't, there's hundreds of other opportunities. You could go smoke some crack. You could go snort some methamphetamine, shoot some heroin. You could do whatever you want out there today. This is America. All right. I'm just trying to see what I want to do. Did you know This is unbelievable. You want to know how out of line the state of California is? They just hired an illegal alien. If I was an illegal alien in Vietnam, they would arrest me. But Kevin De Leon, the president pro tem from Los Angeles, he appointed Elizabeth Mateo from the state of Oaxaca, Mexico, to the California Student Opportunity and Access Program Project Grant Advisory Committee. The title there, I couldn't memorize that title if I worked on it for a week. I got to read it off the page here. In other words, she is an employee. We're spending our tax dollars on a woman from Oaxaca, Mexico, that doesn't even have citizenship in this country, and she's ruling over us. You got it? She came up here illegally, along with her parents who are still illegal. She came here at age 14. She looks to be, I think now she's approaching 30, if I guess from the photo. And she got all her education here. We paid for it. And now we're paying her to work here, and she didn't even belong here. And in her Facebook page in 2016, she says, everything is dedicated to Oaxaca, Mexico, to the land I miss so much. Isn't that great to know? You'd think she'd like to be in America, but she comes up here to a country she hates to get paid up here, right? It's interesting. You'd think people would like to be here because they want to be here and want to make this country their country, right? But no, she doesn't. Everything is dedicated, she says, to Oaxaca, Mexico. Nothing against Oaxaca. I just think she ought to go back there. She's the first illegal alien to hold state office. However, she is not the first illegal elevated to public office. In 2015 at Huntington Park, California, 2 illegals were appointed to city commissions in that area. So something to think about right there. Oh, let's see. Did you see where, let's see, what do I want to say right now about this? You know, we had these walkouts with these kids. These kids, this is nothing but a political ploy. You wonder about the teachers union, where their stance is on stuff. This teachers union is so radically liberal, socialist. You think these kids on their own would have launched this whole thing? And it's interesting. It wasn't an option of we could have a protest for guns or against them. It was only against them. So we have a teacher up at Rockland High School, which is just about 45 minutes from here. She's a history teacher, right? So before the walkout, she began to have a discussion on what free speech really was all about, and brought up other alternatives was about, well, are we going to do a walkout? What if we did a walkout for this? And what if we didn't want to walk out? So they put her on administrative leave because they claimed that she had complaints from students and parents because she had a discussion about the walkout before the walkout. In other words, this was a school-organized walkout. What's right about that? These are government schools, right? Public schools. They're supposed to be for everybody, right? They're not supposed to be religious-free zones or free speech-free zones. In other words, you can have free speech or freedom of religion everywhere else but the public schools. So she starts having a discussion, and she said, I got no complaints from any of my class. So she says it was only appropriate to talk to her class about politics of organized protests ahead of the school walkout. But she says the school disagreed with her views and told her to stay home Wednesday morning. Just says, you can just stay home, why don't you? Because you shouldn't even have brought up any contrary ideas than what we wanted to do. This is a dogmatic school system. She says, her name's Julianne Benzel. I like this woman. We had a dialogue in class about it on Thursday and Friday, as today I received this call, so I'm shocked. Benzel said she never discouraged students from participating in the school walkout, but she did question whether it's appropriate for a school to support a protest against gun violence. I have that same concern, Julianne. She says, I question whether it's appropriate for a school to support a protest against gun violence if they're not willing to support all protests. So next week, why don't we have a protest against abortion and all storm out of school and walk around the block a couple times? So Julianne says, so I just kind of use the example, which I know it's really controversial, because killing kids is controversial, right? Unless you're Planned Parenthood, unless you're government that's funded by Planned Parenthood, politicians that are paid off by Planned Parenthood. So she said, I know it's really controversial, but I use this example. And she said it's the best example I thought of at the time. A group of students nationwide or even locally, if they decided I want to walk out of school for 17 minutes and go to the quad area and protest abortion, would that be allowed by the Rockland administration? So it's not politically correct. This is the problem with Julianne Benzel is she's too righteous. She's too right. She's too balanced. She's too fair. She's too normal. She's not socialist enough, right? I saw great comparison photos. It showed. I went into Bel Air Market the other. Bel Air Market. I needed to go out because I didn't have internet, so I ran out to the church right from Marysville. So I stopped at Bel Air because I wanted to make me a big old sandwich. Man, they got to make big sandwiches in there. So anyway, I walked in there and I looked around that store. That store is a nice store. They got food. They got Chinese food. They got coffee. I mean, you could get a cup of coffee. They got food just pouring off the shelves. It was just jam-packed. Well, anyway, there's this picture I saw on the internet with this said capitalism, and then under it a food store, just beautiful food store, beautiful vegetables, fruits, just pouring off the shelves. And then it showed socialism. It showed a shot of Venezuela's shelves, right, where they're eating rats. The average person's lost 19 pounds. I'm telling you, kids need to forget even letting them read a book. Just show them photos of socialism versus photos of nasty old capitalism. Julianne Benzel, the problem is she thinks too normal. We've got all these twisted freaks that are liberals up there in Rockland, right? Made all their money up there in Rockland, rich old Rockland. They made all their money off capitalism. Why don't they go down there and try that socialism thing down there in Venezuela and try that walkout stuff under Mr. Maduro and get shot down there, kicked to the curb. Anyway, this gal goes on. It took 20 years to put old Jim Whitaker, the PE teacher, on leave. Took 20 years, over 20 years of teaching there, touching girls and fussing with people. And this gal makes one discussion about, like, hey, let's look at the big picture here. Or next week, you want to protest something else? Or, if we're going to allow kids to leave class any old time they want, are we going to do this on protest? Or is this just about the school wanting to be anti-gun, right? Which is really what it's all about. These schools, instead of teaching our kids, it shows the propaganda they're pushing over there. It's not about just teaching kids, whether it's transsexual bathrooms or trying to teach kids that you may be a homosexual and all things, it's kind of like all paths lead to God. It's just like any old way will do. You want to screw a horse, that's normal. You want to screw a pig, that's normal. You want to have sex with a monkey, that's normal. So, one kid down in Rockland, Nick Wade, God bless you, Nick Wade, he had the boldness to say, I ain't walking out. I'm just going to sit here. Screw you people, right? That takes a lot of moxie when you're that age. When you're my age, it doesn't take much. You just think, hey, go fly a kite, why don't you? So he says, Nick Wade, this is a student at Rockland High. I feel like if we were to go to school and say something like, I want to walk out maybe for abortion rights, then they probably wouldn't let us because That's more of a conservative push. I agree with you, Nick. It's like you got free speech as long as you agree with the government, the liberal government, and the commies that are running the La Raza people that are running the California government. But Nick says, but someone wants to say, let's walk out for gun control. Then the school's going to go with it because it's a more popular view. Nick, come on, Nick. You got it going on, buddy. The Rockland School District won't say whether his teacher is in trouble because of that classroom debate. Well, thank God Julianne Binzel's going to sue the drawers right off this city, off this Rockland School District. I hope they lose their shirt. So, for now, Julianne Binzel hopes the National Student Walkout prompts a bigger conversation, not just about Second Amendment gun rights, but First Amendment free speech. Like, okay, we're going to let you walk out for gun rights. How about let's walk out 17 minutes and protest Planned Parenthood murdering all those children? You know, everybody's so concerned about 17 kids getting shot up in Florida. They kill that many in a day in one abortion clinic in Florida. Like, what's the big deal? I thought you were okay with that. I'm not okay with either of them. But you liberals are okay with murdering all them kids. You know, you go on the basis of size. If a kid's small, nobody will notice. We'll kill him, right? It's like stealing something small at the store. You don't want to walk out with a big screen TV, but you'll steal the lipstick. Right, something small. Just slip it in your bag. Nobody will ever notice. Like killing like a 20-week-old child, right? Nobody will notice. Everything, just go in there, have it done, come out, go to lunch. Everything's cool. All right. Just thought I'd bring that up. I just want to give an atta-girl to Julianne Binzel and an atta-boy to Nick Wade, who had the Spaldings to say, screw you people up there in Rockland. You're a bunch of idiots. So, did you notice that Mike Pompeo, he got appointed to be the CIA, and the LBGTXYZ ABC group, that's the group that you can have sex with anybody or a doorknob. Now, we got to make sure the CIA director, or the Secretary of State, who was a CIA director, now the litmus test on that guy is whether or not he's going to go screw somebody up the backside, right? That's if he's a guy, he's got to be able to have some homosexual experience. Now, it's interesting to me. I don't understand. I get confused sometimes. I can't figure which side these people are on, because in Obama, he liked to bang both ways. And so if you got a guy like a military guy, I can't remember the guy's name, but we had this Afghan police officer. You know, these Afghan guys, these Muslims like to screw little boys, right? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old boys. And this guy had him tied to the bedpost in these barracks, and then whenever he wanted to use him, he'd go use him. And finally, this American military guy beat the tar out of that Afghani, and he got punished by Obama, right? Now, I can't figure out, I thought Obama was for having sex with those boys and stuff like that. I can't keep it all straight. It's just like we get up one morning and these are the rules. We get up in the afternoon and these are the rules. I don't know. You know, it's like the Bible says the judges, at one point in the book of Judges, they did what was right in their own eyes. In other words, it was no moral rules anymore. It's just like, oh, you want to do a horse, you can do a horse. You want to you want to have an inflatable doll, you can do an inflatable doll. You want to mess with boys, as long as, like, there's some men like Harvey Milk that we're going to celebrate here in another month or so. If he liked it, he enjoyed boys, underage boys. And so now we got a group of men and we got people in the legislature that are willing to say, as long as the boy consents, we're good to go, right? So anyway, I can't keep up with all this stuff. And so somehow this guy can't be a good Secretary of State. Now, see, when you go over there to deal with that Korean dictator, he would take a rocket to knock out a homosexual dude, right? He just used, right? He killed one of his own people with a rocket, right? One of those shoulder rocket units. So to say that Pompeo or that Sessions is, when they say this anti-LGBT XYZ OMP, it's crazy because it's like, well, what's he want to do? Kill them? No, actually, you got better civil rights under people that are Christian people than you would under non-Christian. And so they're actually came out against Pompeo, just like with Pence. They say, oh, he hates all these people who, it's just so full of baloney. It's like a guy that's going to go and settle this nuclear issue in North Korea. You want him to go but you won't, I don't hear any of you people that are on that side of the belief system going after all these Muslims that are tossing homosexuals off the top of buildings over there in Baghdad or wherever. Why don't you put your life where your mouth is? Well, okay. Well, we're out of time. We're going to take a break. No, we got one more half hour. The party's over.
The Sutter Buttes Tea Party Patriots presents a community event titled The Sheriff and the Citizen. This one-day seminar featuring Sheriff Richard Mack is being held on March 25th and will focus on the constitutional role of the county sheriff. We the people decide who will be elected as the chief law enforcement officer, the ultimate authority in the land. And the sheriff we elect is accountable to and reports directly to us, the power source. As a republic, we the people elect our representatives, making us the most powerful resource in the government. But as citizens of this republic, we must fully understand our Constitution and the oath our elected officials take to support and defend that Constitution. If we do not know what is in it and understand it, then how are we to hold them accountable to it? Know your Constitution, elect constitutional representatives, and hold them accountable to their oath of office. If sheriffs keep their oath of office, we keep our Constitution.
All right, we're going to try to land the plane, cover a couple quick topics here. We're going to talk about education for a little bit. Penn State law professor who said black students are rarely in the top half of class loses teaching duties. This is just typical of you can't tell the truth when the agenda says it's got to be another way. So we have all this affirmative action baloney letting people into college because of the color of their skin when they don't really have the credits or have the aptitude, or they didn't work hard enough, or they didn't have enough high enough scores, so they get in there and they can't perform, right? It's kind of like letting a guy work for you who doesn't have the ability to work for you in this particular task, and then the customer, it's like the guys that came by and worked on my phones, if they went out there and fussed around for a couple of days and my phones are still screwed up, we got a problem. So University of Pennsylvania Law School Professor Amy Wax. Why would a law professor lie? Why would a law professor get the numbers wrong? Do you don't think a law professor's smart enough? Why would a law professor, and she's just being interviewed, and they get into an interview about these types of topics, and she says, just what I said, she said. Black students rarely in the top half of her class. So because she was just told the fact, is all, she didn't say she didn't like black kids. She didn't say she thought they were stupid. She just said that they didn't end up in the talk. See, we just can't talk about that. We let people in based upon color, but after they get in, it's like color don't count no more. Amy Wax, a tenured professor, will continue to teach electives in her expertise. But she can't teach in her any of the first year curriculum courses because she may like cramp the style of black students. Black students got all PO'd. They said that she spoke disparagingly and inaccurately when she claimed last year that she had rarely seen a black student finish in the top half of their class. It's interesting that her area of expertise is social justice law. Isn't that interesting? And all she was doing is speaking, it's just a fact, right? It's like saying a fact. White guys can't jump high. Nobody freaks out about that. 88% of people in the NBA are black. Nobody gets upset about that. But if we say, hey, there aren't many figure skaters that are black. Oh, you're being racist. I don't think I've ever seen a black student graduate in the top quarter of the class, she said, and rarely in the top half. She was just being interviewed. I can think of one or two students who scored in the top of my class. Her specialty is social welfare law and policy. She says that the law review has a diversity mandate. In other words, whoever gets to write there, it depends on the color of their skin. Oh, you can't talk about that. That's why our schools are screwed up, right? You can't say what you want, right? She wasn't being racist. She wasn't being offensive. She was just saying, hey, she could have said, most of the kids in the top half of my class are black or Asian or whatever, right? She says the column she wrote, she's like strutting her stuff. She said, oh, come on, man. This is the truth. She says all cultures are not equal. Think about it. Or at least they are not equal in preparing people to be productive in an advanced economy. This is an advanced economy. Do you think that black ghetto cultures are preparing their black boys to operate in an advanced economy? The column went on to state that some working class whites, rap culture inner city blacks, and anti-assimilation ideas among Hispanic immigrants were destructive to American democracy. Said, hey, that's true. The piece calls on academics, the media, and Hollywood to relinquish multicultural grievance polemics and return to 1950s posture of celebrating bourgeois culture. What is that culture? That means don't get stoned, don't get loaded, stay in your lane sexually, behave yourself, work hard, right? Around the same time, she told Daily Pennsylvanian that everyone wants to go to countries ruled by white Europeans. They do. They do. People are coming. You can't keep them out of the borders. Well, they want to go to Europe, Canada, Australia, U.S. They want. Why? Because they're run differently than these third world nations. She said, if you want to read something, read for a black person named Tom Sowell. He wrote all about race and politics. And he wrote about just what Amy Law's saying. She's dead on right. It's Penn State that's wrong. Now, it's the same thing that this Rockland High School teacher is getting persecuted for talking the truth. You can't talk the truth in this culture. You get all people pissed off at you. So check this out. This is typical of the union-run California school system, New York school system. So what does a school board do with teachers whom no principal wants to hire? My friend Doug Eshman has been a master at not hiring loser school teachers and getting them out of his school and hiring world-class teachers over at Maricopa. That's why people break down the doors trying to get into his school. Half the kids at Maricopa School in Marysville, of 500 kids, about half of them don't even belong in that district. They want to come there. As soon as Doug leaves, the place will go back to being a slum school. In New York, that problem was solved this past fall when Mayor Bill de Blasio, Mr. Socialist himself, and school chief Carmen Farina began to unload the so-called absent teacher reserve. In other words, these are the lemons, the loser teachers. 800 or so teachers from schools that closed or whose jobs may have been eliminated. They just dumped these lousy teachers and told principals, you got them. You haven't got jack to say about it. What that means is parents and students have nothing to say in this school system. You're just fodder for the system. The school system is there to take care of the teachers, has nothing to do with kids. It says many of these teachers are inept, have checkered pasts, and sat idled for years in rubber rooms. They call them rubber rooms, where they just sit all day and get paid. They don't do anything because no principals want to hire them, but firing them is next to impossible. So they do no teaching, but they collect their checks, get yearly raises. Did you know in government you get a raise whether just as long as you're breathing? You could be the worst, most cantankerous, bitchy old hag in the office and you still get a raise. It has nothing to do with performance or like you're an amazing worker or people always sing praises that all our customers love her, so we're giving her a raise. No, it's like that's these raises are participation trophies. Like the soccer kids, now you don't get a trophy for being the best player or best on offense, best on defense, best with the highest spirited person. No. If you showed up and had a bad attitude, you get yourself a trophy. So these are participation trophies. If you were breathing and you showed up most of the time, then you got a raise. And they get their bloated pensions. Los Angeles now faces the same problem. 300 must-place teachers are not in the classroom but are still on the payroll. That means nobody wants them. They're losers. Kids hate them. The parents hate them. The other teachers hate them. They said, listen, we'll pay to just put them in a room so they don't poison anybody else. In an era in L.A. where there's teacher shortages, it's commonplace. These people are just sitting around staring at the wall or their phones. So, as the school board, anyway, let me give you, the school districts always falsify their graduation statistics. Did you know that? LA School District brags about an 84% graduation rate, but fails to acknowledge that impressive statistic is smoke and mirror attempt to mask what Seth Litt, executive director of Parent Revolution, recently referred to as the uncomfortable truths. The school district said we got an 84% graduation rate. Here's what the truth is. 52% of LA School District schools earn a D or an F in English language arts. 50% earn a D or F in math. 69% of schools rated for African American students earned a D or F in both English and math. 40% of all students are only 40% of all students graduate ready for college or career. 39% of Latino students graduate ready for college or career. 30% of African American students graduate ready for college or career. 17% of English learners graduate ready for college or career. I'm asking you, why are we even funding these things? Why do we even have these schools? We could do better off letting them learn all their stuff on the street. If 52%, like, for instance, you could flip a coin and about 50% of the time you get the right answer, right? If you take heads, the odds are 50%. If only 50% are earning a D and F in math and 50% are getting higher, why not just let them learn it on the streets and just take the test? Why pay all these teachers? It's a totally corrupted system. Anyway, the only people benefiting by this system are the unions and the teachers. The union is also working in shady ways to collect money from teachers. In light of a possible ruling, there's a Supreme Court decision coming down that may make it illegal for unions to force teachers to pay them. union dues. They may make it optional. That is going to screw up the unions. And so now they're already working ways that they can conjure up these monies out of teachers and get around the Supreme Court ruling to sign a bizarre contract that would force them to pay dues if they leave the profession, etc. It gets complicated. Anyway, I'm going to skip that because I'm running out of time. Additionally, you've heard of Prop 13. I covered this a while back. If my house, since I bought my house many, many years ago, I have saved like almost $90,000 in taxes by Prop 13 protections since it got passed in the 1970s. I bought my house in 1987. You people that don't know anything about Prop 13 that moved into California, you better read up on it, because what's happening is there are going to be referendums on the ballot coming up to undermine and eliminate the Prop 13 protections. Teachers' unions, which are the most powerful unions in California, will soon become involved with a ballot initiative that, if successful, would repeal Prop 13 protections. You want to watch your property taxes go through the roof? I mean, like 2 and 3 time increases? That's what's going to happen here. The other thing is the teachers' union in L.A., their boss, is threatening to create a state crisis and possibly a teacher strike later this year. You know what my feeling is? Bring it on, baby. Shut the whole stinking system down and just let kids go home. I'm confident that if my kid was getting a D or an F in math, I could do better at home, not being ever educated on that topic. I could just, off the internet and off of one book, I'm sure I can produce a better outcome with my kid than that. So just like shut the school down, quit paying them teachers, and give some money to the parents to buy their own curriculum, let them do it at home. We'll be a lot better off. So that's that. I'm so proud of Julianne Benzel from Rockland School District. I hope you just clean house up there at that Rockland. That politically, these people just make me so mad. And that kid up there, Nick Wade, God bless you, man. I hope you rise. I hope you just keep kicking rear up there. I wish some of the students that are pro-life up there in the Rockland School District would just get up out of your chairs at a designated time and walk out and spend 17 minutes out on the quad in spite of your school district and just flip them the bird and protest abortion and see what happens on your free speech then. See how that works for you. See, the only free speech that's being allowed in California right now is if you're for those communists, all those La Raza people that are running this state, Becerra and Lara and De Leon and all those other people that are either running the state or molesting the women under them. That'd be what's going on right now. All right. Well, let me just mention, listen, if you got problems with people loitering on your property or stealing stuff from you, or messing with your property or harassing you, you need to call Elite Universal Security, and that's 749-0280. That's here in Yuba County, 530 area code. So if you're in the 530 area code, just dial 749-0280 and hook up with Monty Hecker. He will help solve your problem. If you want to have him patrol your ranch or your house, or have people walk your business area, walk your block, they will keep people from messing with your business. And if you want to get some training, you can also call them at that number, or you could go on their website. If you need a job, EliteUniversalSecurity.com. They got some jobs posted over there. And also, I want to make sure, listen, you need to take March 25th and go to this constitutional sheriff thing. It's going to help candidates, and it's going to help sheriff's candidates. But as a citizen of this county or your county, whatever county you're at, you need to know, what, Tammy's amazing, Tammy's got this sorted out. She's been teaching this class on Constitution long enough. She can wrap it down. She was not working off notes in here this morning, and she was explaining how your concept of how the government works is all wrong, and you can get dialed in on this constitutional sheriff. You know what the rights are in our little county. You think, oh, our county, we don't have any power. You know, when these federal judges make decisions over us, screw those people. If they're contrary to the Constitution, we don't have to do what they say. We don't have to fight them. It's just like Sheriff Max says. He wouldn't have gone to the Supreme Court. Just said, hey, we don't need you, right? We don't need you. Don't recognize you. Don't need you. It's contrary to the Constitution. If you don't know the Constitution, that's your bad being a judge. So if you want to get involved, March 25th, it's out to Church of Glad Tidings, 1179 Eager Road. And it's an all-day event. Sheriff Mack's going to be there, man. The Duck is going to be there. He's in town and from Arizona. And he's got books to sell. Or actually, she's going to give you a book if you register and pay to come to the course. Otherwise, you can audit it. Doesn't cost you a nickel. They're also going to throw in lunch on it. It's a good deal. So March 25th, it starts at 9 in the morning and goes to 4 in the afternoon. And you could call her, Tammy, at 530-701-2845. Again, 701-2845. Or you could go TJ Reichard, R-I-K-A-R-D. TJ Reichard, R-I-K-A-R-D, gmail.com. Now, if you got kids in homeschool, this will blow their mind. Your kids in homeschool, if you're trying to teach them about how this government's supposed to work, you don't want them just like paying attention to what the government does and think that's how it works, because they're not following the Constitution. Your kids would be the smartest kids on the college campus or in business if they would go take this one-day course. And that will put them light years ahead in their civics understanding. So check it out. You could also go to the Sutter Buttes Tea Party, all one word, Sutter Buttes with an S, teaparty.org, and you can find out about this. It's called The Sheriff and the Citizen. And it's called Constitutional Training for Deputies, Posses, and Citizen Supporters of the Sheriff. So Sutter Buttes Tea Party, Patriots, Nevada County Tea Party, Sutter Yuba Constitutional Republicans, all are behind this event. Big event, cool event, very educational. Nobody else is doing training like this in the area. Also, look for Tammy Reichard's next Constitution class. I think it's a 12-session class, 2 hours a night over about 12 weeks, and it'll start in April. And so that's another thing. Okay, and this Monday, don't miss the Tea Party Sheriff's Forum or Sheriff's Town Hall, whatever you want to call it. It's about them all getting up there talking. You can ask your questions. Check it out. Don't be stupid. Don't be going to the voting booth and like closing one eye and voting, right? You go in both eyes open. All right, we're calling it a day. We got sports for the next couple hours. So hang in there. If you're going to learn everything you need to know about sports today. We'll be back next week.